What an inspiring bout.
Hey guys, how you doing? This is ShantottoCast, back for our second and in fact last podcast. Last night in the tournament, the locals, Ty baited me, and I don't think we can be friends anymore. So after this episode, I think this is it.
Is this going to be our ongoing shtick where every episode's the last episode?
Maybe we'll do that. We'll talk about that.
But
we'll talk about it.
It's Eric and Ty. We're here for another episode. We're covering a bit more of an abstract topic, a topic that has to do with a lot of card games, but we're kind of going to be honing in on our little slice of life in Final Fantasy here, and that's color theory. So
the idea of color theory, it applies, like Ty said, to many card games. Most notably, Magic the Gathering.
Which was basically its origin. That was something that Mark Waters talked about.
Yeah, you can find it in other card games, kind of like Dragon Ball Super and Weiss Schwartz. Mm-hmm. They each have their own other versions of it. But for Final Fantasy, that's what we're going to be talking about today. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that every color has its own theme and unique function. Other colors might share some smaller, bits of that function, or have other cards that do the same thing. But, by and large, these categories are relevant to just one color.
Yeah, and we're going to be talking about the color that it's mainly focused on and the color that it's primarily in. Mm-hmm. And then this is also going to be excluding things like cycles. Once again, cycles is a kind of Magic term. It originated in Magic, in which basically like every color gets kind of one card that's kind of the same, but has like a color-specific ability. A good example of this in Final Fantasy is the Archfiends. Another good one is the multicolor cards, which were in Opus 7, where you could pay one of a different color to get an additional effect. And so we're basically excluding cycles. We want to kind of keep that out of the way and just kind of focus on the cards that these functions are kind of made for. Right. And kind of exemplify these cards a lot. We're going to be mainly sticking on just like easy to note cards and cards that are even played, but we are going to probably be bringing up some weird cards.
True. So to get started off, we'll just jump into Lightning here. So Lightning, one of their main functions is targeting active forwards. Cards like Alcid, Dice Dark, Rigby, Adremelech, 2-drop Magus, the Ravager forward, Opus 6 Black Mage, and Sakura are cards that come to mind.
Yeah, there's tons of cards that have the active specific tag on them, and that's entirely in Lightning. The thing is, I think Lightning's the only color that really specify active forward.
Yeah.
And that's something that's always kind of weird about it, but, it kind of punishes the opponent for playing well, for playing things with Brave. And it's just kind of become part of Lightning that we really enjoy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and especially if you put it on a card like Alcid, it's going to be ridiculous. And then another aspect, kind of related to being able to target active forwards, is just outright hard removal. So hard removal in this case is just being able to just break something. It might have a small condition to it. It might have to cost 3 or less or something like that. But off the top of my head, we've got Odin 7-drop. There's just the primary example for just hard removal. The 4-drop, which targets a forward that costs 4 or less. Raiden, Adia, Astinian, Kane. Like, all these are largely... they don't do damage. They don't send it back to hand. It's just outright break. And that's something that Lightning has, not exclusively, but is very, very strong and very present in Lightning.
Yeah, and then moving on, we have effects based on damaged forwards. So when when you're targeting an opponent's forward, that forward must be already damaged in some way to have this effect actually function. Mm-hmm. So we have cards like Angeal Penance, Opus 1 Black Mage, also the Mystic Knight from I think Opus 7. 1-drop Opus 5 Rama, Opus 4 Orlando, the Opus 6 Ninja backup.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of things that do basically just finish off damage forwards.
Yeah, basically. A lot of those cards don't require, they don't deal extra damage. They just say, hey, if that thing's injured, just slit the throat, finish it off.
Yeah, like the best example of this one is Orlando, which is target, or when he enters, target a damage forward, break it.
Yep.
And there's a lot of other cards like that. It's not super popular, and it doesn't see a lot of competitive play, but still Orlando does still pop up every here and there, as well as the Opus 6 Ninja.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's basically everything for Lightning. Those are the 3 major themes for it. So we're just going to move on to the next color, which is
Wind.
Yeah.
So Wind, one of their unique, I guess, abilities here, we reactivation. Reactivation is a very strong element in sustainability in a card game. Cards that do that for Wind would be Bart's EX, Diabolos, the 5-drop 1 from Opus 5, Asura 1-drop, Aerith Opus 1, the 3-drop backup, Vaughn Opus 1, the 5-drop, and Vata.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason why Wind is so strong right now, is that it allows you to just kind of commit to your board and allows you to do all these effects and then just re-up it. Like, that's part of the reason why Bart's was even chosen as the World Championship promo, is because he's just so strong, just being able to activate everything as soon as you play him. And obviously we see this effect work super well with Yuri in Mono Wind.
Oh god, yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah, so reactivation itself is very disgusting, and it's very in flavor for Wind, and being able to just kind of re-up everything.
For sure.
And then something else kind of in flavor with Wind is the card text can't be blocked by X cost. So we see this in cards. We haven't seen it in a lot of cards, but it's still present. Yuffie, Opus 1 Zidane, and Ninjas come to mind because they tend to just duck under things. Another good example of this is Paul from Opus 7, I believe. He was either 7 or 6, where he can't be blocked by 3 or more. And then there was also the monster, whose name I can't remember.
Oh, you're thinking of Spice Sicilian.
Spice Sicilian gives that to something else. But there is one monster that, when it animates, it swings under.
You're thinking of the old Death Gaze. That it can't be blocked by anything.
No, that's it.
It
breaks 5 or 10.
No, that's a special. We'll figure it out in post. We'll edit this and we'll give you the right answer.
We'll put a little note.
Yeah.
But and then another Wind kind of mechanic is mill. So usually you do see this in Magic you see it in black, or in blue. So it's a little weird to kind of see it in Wind for this game. But we have the Thieves. We have 2 of the Sidhai Winds.
Yep.
And the Riku backups.
It's the majority of them. It's not all of them, but almost all of them.
Yeah, most of the Riku cards in general.
Interestingly.
Yeah.
Why is it Riku?
I have no idea.
I don't remember the flavor for her very well.
I didn't play enough 10, to be honest.
Touche.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an effective method because the more your opponent can't use of their deck, the better. The better chance you theoretically have.
Yeah.
And then next up we have hand reveal.
Yeah.
Your opponent gets to look at your hand, or you get to look at your opponent's hand. Yeah. That's dangerous. Yeah. That's scary. Information is the biggest thing in any card game.
Yeah.
And cards let you do that would be Zidane, Opus 3 and Opus 6.
Yep.
Opus 5 and Opus 8 Thieves, and 2 out of the 3 versions of Sid Polendina from Opus 2 and 5.
Yeah. So this is another kind of weird mechanic, and it's not on a lot of cards. And we're going to be going into other mechanics that are only on like 2 or 3 cards. But it's still one that is entirely in one color, and it's still interesting to see. Even though none of those cards, with the exception of the Zidanes, see any play, it is still a very information-gathering mechanic, and I'd love to see it on more things.
Oh, yeah.
And then moving on to fire, the first thing that everyone thinks of fire in any card game, this is also very present in Magic the Gathering as well, is like chip and burn damage. So in Final Fantasy, in the context, it's dealing damage to forwards, and right off the top of our heads, like the first things that always come to mind are bombs, grenades, Ifrits, Bahamut's, like Phoenix, like all of these cards have multiple variations with the exception of Grenade, and all of them do damage, or just do 4 or 5k damage. The Ifrits do anywhere between like 4 and 10k, or 4 and 8k.
Yeah. And keep in mind... Oh, sorry.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, keep in mind, these are all just summons and monsters we're listing. There are tons of forwards who do the same thing.
Yeah.
But people more often than not think of the spells or the summons that do this.
Yeah. For forward examples, we have the new card Iroha in Opus 8. That's a really good chip damage card. There's even the VV backup. Even the VV forward, which counts cards in hand. Same with Black Waltz. there's a lot of cards to put into this category, and that's why we did kind of narrow it down to just summons. Yeah. But there's a lot of cards in this category.
Basically all of fire, minus the vanillas.
The better part, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, really. And then another big part, this is another category that only has 2 cards right now, but it is still something that we can see kind of grow. It's a very powerful mechanic, and it's direct damage. It's damage straight to the opponent. And the 2 cards that really are exemplified by this are Opus 2 Palom, who has the special of being able to dull him and a Porum to deal your opponent a point of damage, and then Jet, who, if you're behind by 2, he just deals the opponent a point of damage. Once again, this is only on those 2 cards, and technically on Bahamut EX.
Yeah.
But he deals yourself a point of damage, but still. Yeah. This is just an effect that we're probably going to be seeing more in the future. It's very, very powerful, so we're going to be kind of seeing it in these kind of edge cases like Palom and Jet.
It's going to be rare, but when it is there, it's going to be powerful.
Yeah, but I think it's safe to say that it's going to be almost primarily staying in
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think it deserves a unique mechanic like that.
Yeah, the only other element that I could really see this in is like Dark.
Yeah, that's valid. So moving on, we're going to look at the last bit of fire here, their last unique ability. That's Cannot Block, making your opponents something or other, be it not able to block of higher cost or something, or just saying, hey, this or those forwards just can't block this turn. Yeah.
As a bit of clarification, when we talked about this in Wind, because both of them are kind of similar. Yeah. Wind is targeting the forward, or targeting your character, your forward, that can swing under things. Fire is designating as something that can't block.
Yeah. So cards that do that, examples would be the Ninja Backup, Imaginary Brawler, Tifa, 5-drop from Opus 2, the new card Yotsuyu, and Zell from Opus 2. Yeah. So they all allow your forwards to just kind of decide what happens in any given engagement.
Yeah, Fire hasn't been seeing a lot of play, but we do see it a lot in Ninja Backup. And even back in Opus 3, we were seeing it on Imaginary Brawler, where people were playing Imaginary Brawler. And even with the most recent release of Opus 8 with Yotsuyu, like Yotsuyu, she's strong. Just being able to make anything that costs 5 or less, just not be able to block.
That's gross.
And it is starting to see play. It's not seeing a lot. It's really good with Archangel HM, which is part of the reason why it may be seeing more play.
I think we're going to start seeing a lot of cards from Fire mixed in with other colors. I don't think Mono Fire is going to really take off for a while yet, but, again, rather. But mixing it in with things like lightning or wind is going to be a little bit more prominent again. Yeah. So that's just my guess.
Yeah. And then to move on to the exact opposite of fire, we've got water, which is a little funny because the effects are very, very different. Yeah. Because we do see a little overlap between some colors, and we're even going to get into that after we cover kind of all the basic colors. Yeah. But water and fire cannot be more different. Water, instead of opting to break things through damage, opts to bounce things. And we see this in Leviathan, we see it in Leviathan, and we see it in Leviathan. Specifically Opus 1, Opus 4, and Opus 6. We also see this in Strago from Opus 4, and Realm in Opus 8, who allows you to bounce a monster. Yep. This is also in Alexander, the 1-drop from Opus 8 as well. Yeah. Which allows you to drop, which allows you to bounce a 3-drop or lower, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so bounce is very strong in water, and it's very present in water. People still run the Leviathans. People still are able to kind of use it to just get that extra point of damage, especially with like Layla Vikings.
Yeah, it's a nice way of taxing your opponent. Returning something to hand makes them, if they want to have to play it again, sure, it gives them resources if they want to pitch it. Yeah. For CP, but more often than not, they're going to want to get that forward back on the field. Yeah.
And they're going to have to spend more resources just to do it again. Obviously, you have to watch out with strong ETBs. Right. And there's even another thing to kind of note about this specific category is water also has stuff that bounces your own stuff back to hand. As we see in like Scholar from Opus 1, that's very strong with Cognazo. Yeah. Or something, it's a good protective measure. If someone's going to die, like, hey, bring it back to hand. Yeah. Or alternatively, the ETBs, getting those again. So, a lot of options with bounce. It's a very interesting mechanic. It's why water's so strong. But moving on, we have draw power. Cards like Poo-Poo, Moogle, the summon Moogle, of course, all the Vikings, the backup Larsa, which very few people run, but it's an option. Merlewib from Opus 2, the EX, and Porum from Opus 5.
So all these allow you to just continually be drawing cards, and there are entire decks revolving around the concept of consistent draw power.
Yeah.
Always having like 7 cards in hand.
Mm-hmm.
Pitching for hand size is kind of good in those games.
Yeah.
Because you can get rid of stuff you don't want.
Mm-hmm.
It's just you've always got answers.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Just raw drawing cards is part of the reason why Layla Viking is seeing a lot of plays, especially when you splash it into other colors, because water is right now the only color to have a true draw engine, and to be able to put that into a stronger color or a color that can build a stronger board or an invincible board like Earth or even Fire, or we've also been seeing water being paired up with Ice.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very strong mechanic, and we're seeing it on progressively better and better cards. Like the Vikings are once again a great example.
Mm-hmm.
We're even seeing it on the Opus 8 Legend Zidane, which allows you to just swing in and draw 2, which is incredibly powerful. Just being able to draw cards in a game where your hand is your resource, it allows you to kind of pop off, to kind of occur so much advantage that the opponent can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, you snowball very, very powerfully with that.
Yeah.
And then another thing that makes water very useful here is cost reduction. Not a ton of stuff in water does this, but we have enough examples to at least list them here.
Yeah, and this is definitely another mechanic that is kind of vaguely shared by other colors. Every color has like an example of this, but it's usually just kind of like a one-off, two-off card. While water, once again, doesn't have a lot, it definitely has more than everybody else. The first card is the first card that a lot of people think of when it comes to reducing cost is the Unit 2 drop backup.
Yeah.
Being able to reduce all water summons by 1 doesn't seem like a lot, especially if you are playing cards like Poo Poo that can't go below 1. It is a little but this card is almost a meme with the Final Fantasy thing.
Yeah.
People are always saying that like Leviathans cost 2, Famfrit costs 2, Caholing costs 3. Like if there's a lot of summons that this obviously affects, then there's a lot of summons that just rounds it down to that nice 2-drop instead. And then some other cards that also reduce cost are Mira, Aiko from Opus 6, Refia from Opus 2, and Lion from Opus 8.
Yep.
These are all cards that do have, in one way or another, cost reduction and being able to just reduce the cost of things. Like Mira stands out. She's able to reduce the cost of all the monsters by 1.
She's why monster decks exist.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. She's just a huge resource pool for water monsters.
So not much to say about that. We can move on to a term that was coined in Magic the Gathering and has moved on to pretty much every other card game. Scry.
Yeah.
So looking at the top card of your deck or effects that are based on the top card of your deck.
Yeah. For those who haven't played Magic the Gathering or don't have an interest in Magic the Gathering, Scry is this universal keyword, kind of like how we have search, that it allows you to look at the top X cards of your deck and then put them back in any order or put them on the bottom of your deck.
Yep.
So we haven't seen a lot of it in this game, but we do see a bit of it. Some people like to call it filtering.
Yeah.
But we see this in Opus 1 Geomancer, Opus 5 Porum, the Opus 7 Oracle. Whale Zombie is a good recent example, and then Battaron.
Battaron. I think that's how you pronounce this game. I don't know.
Yeah. Feel free to just correct us in the comments.
Yeah.
But all these cards in some way can kind of manipulate the top card of your deck, or even if you just kind of see the top card of your deck, you're not liking it, you don't want to draw it, or if you're playing Fusoya and you don't want to hit that into damage, you can just put it on bottom instead. This is a very strong keyword in Magic. We're starting to kind of see how powerful it is in Final Fantasy. Hopefully it kind of takes off a little bit more. Just being able to just kind of alter what you're going to be drawing into to make sure that you don't get those dead draws is a very strong mechanic, and it's almost exclusively in water.
Yeah. The only other card that really comes to mind immediately for that would be the Light Una that lets you look at the top of your deck, and if it's a summon, you can cast it, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think we can move on to the next element. We have Earth.
Yep.
And one of the things that you basically only see in Earth, and this is something that was utilized by so many Earth players, it still is.
Yeah, and these are cards that still see a lot of play, and that's making forwards fight each other. So the first card that always comes to mind is Hecatoncheir.
Yep.
That's Opus 4 Hecatoncheir, the 2-drop.
The 2-drop.
And it's just this insane card. Just 2 mana to make 2 things attack. In Magic, this is primarily in green, but it's such a strong mechanic in Final Fantasy because it's really not hard to be able to build up a big character, especially when you're on Earth.
Yeah.
Just yesterday during our locals, I was running Scions, playing against another Scions player, and it really came down to who was able to build up a bigger Ida and then just kind of snipe things away using Hecatoncheir, or to make the opponent 1-for-1 using or 2-for-1 with Hecatoncheir. This is just a very, very strong mechanic because it's also been added onto cards that can buff.
Right.
So, like as we wrote in our notes, Yojimbo is another good example of this.
It's Heka Plus.
Yeah.
It costs 2 more, but it's an EX and it buffs your character before the fight.
Yeah.
So you can either get that 1-for-1 or you can survive the fight, have a little bit of power left over, bash through the wall.
Yeah.
And the Noctis also does the same thing. The 3-drop EX Opus 7? Yeah. Opus 7. Noctis, the Buy a Box promo Noctis.
Yeah.
As most people know it by.
Because whenever you hit damage, he gets to fight something.
Yep.
And as we mentioned before, it's a very strong effect. That's why Noctis does he play. That's why people do really like him. But it's not always both ways. Because we've got cards like the Backup Railbound EX, the 4-drop from Opus 2, which allows what I usually just call the Atomos effect, which is just steal that character's power to another thing.
Yep.
Titan's another good example of this.
That's Yojimbo Plus.
Yeah, Yojimbo plus, yeah.
Yeah.
Being able to just give something 2k and then
have it hit
its
something.
Power.
Yeah.
That actually worked out super well for me yesterday.
Yeah.
And just normal Atomos, which was...
the 4-drop one.
Yeah, the 4-drop one, which was, I believe, Opus...
I think
3.
It's Opus 3. Yeah. It's pretty old.
Yeah, it's getting there. But that was also one of the first real examples of that outside of Railbound in Opus 2.
And then moving on, we have negation effects. Anything that negates an effect or cancels its effect on a character, or something along those lines. It might not always be completely canceling, but one way or another. Cards like this, pretty much all the 2-drop backups for Earth, a lot of the good ones. We have Lael, Kate Sith 14, Black Mage, the Anti-Dull one, Doga, and Cryo 14.
Yeah.
All of those, in some way or another, protect your characters from, in having, terrible things inflicted upon them.
Yeah. The protection's a little narrow on each of them. For example, like, Creel is... it can be bounced back.
Right.
And same with Doga. Doga's a little bit more vague because it's if they get targeted by an ability, correct? And then now we have the new Lael, which is a summon. Even though this is all very narrow, it's still things that are going to happen in game. And these are things that you're going to have to kind of get used to and kind of get ready for. And being able to just have that effect on a 2-drop backup is very strong.
Yeah. Having the toolbox and seeing what your opponent is playing allows you to decide which ones of these you're going to play.
Yeah.
And then, react with them accordingly.
Yeah.
They're just very useful. It's a good tool belt.
Yeah.
It's a good tool belt to have.
Yeah. And it was funny because when we were writing the notes for this episode, I was kind of in denial about this one because I was like, no, every color has these. And I was able to cite a couple cards like the Summon Prevention in Water, which I believe is a summoner. And there's like small examples of this, but when we kind of went through FF decks and we went through Mognet and were able to kind of compare everything using the specific wording, Earth is by and large, the most.
Yeah, it's a landslide. The difference is significant.
And it's so significant to the point where we can say that is kind of like an Earth, not an exclusive Earth thing, but it's something that's very indicative of Earth. That is part of the color theory of Earth.
It is very much the big dog that you can't take down.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. So, and then moving on, we have the concept of damage prevention to a character, of course. So the two biggest cards that stand out in this regard, the ones that come to mind for everyone, are 3-drop Noctis and the new Galoof.
Opus 7.
Yeah, Opus 7 Galoof. Both of which have the option to completely and totally negate all damage to themselves.
Yeah.
They can't extend that to other characters on the field. But do you really need to?
Yeah. Especially if you have a card like Noctis that's going to be constantly fighting. Being able to just prevent the next damage to him is really nice. And Galoof just can't be broken. So in a way, it is damage prevention, but he can't be broken during your turn. So it's a lot easier for you to Heka with him and make sure that he doesn't die, or being able to kind of have these even trades with him and not lose any resources.
Yeah, it's a card we both wish we had more of.
Yeah, honestly.
Do you want to move on to the next
bit
of Earth here?
The next one's actually pretty connected to what we were just talking about, which is Unconditional Can't Be Broken. And the two cards under that are Gloof and Arden. Once again, this is a really new kind of word. It's very similar to Indestructible from Magic. And we only see it on two cards. Gloof, who has a kind of conditional one where it has to be during your turn.
Yeah.
And then the new Arden, which just doesn't have a condition to it at all. He just can't be broken.
Yep.
Just with the exception of his ability that allows him to not block. But even that's still it's a very strong effect.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways around it, but there are some decks that rely heavily on just breaking.
Yeah.
So
and it makes a lot of sense in Earth.
Oh yeah.
Because even though Earth doesn't really have an equivalent in other card games, because in the equivalent with this part of Earth is kind of in Magic with
Indestructible or hexproof.
Yeah, well, it's similar to Green, because Green just kind of has big stuff that usually is conditional. But to kind of see it in this one, in which we kind of get the powerhouse levels of Green instead of the ramp, we do kind of see that in here. And that makes a lot of sense with Earth, especially if you look at like some of the summons throughout the games, like Golem, which prevents physical damage, Carbuncle, etc.
Yeah. All right, so moving on then, we have the last individual color. We have ice.
Yeah. And then, once again, this is a little bit different from the last one.
Yeah.
And the thing that makes ice, the one big flavorful thing about ice that's in the name is freezing. And freezing is kind of what ice is known for. Dulling and freezing is kind of like why you play the deck.
Yep.
And the number one card on a lot of people's list is Genesis.
They begged for reprints.
Yeah.
Etc. So we have Genesis, we have Kuja from Opus 6, we have Archangel GK from Opus 8, we have multiple Shivas.
Yeah, Opus 1, Opus 7, and Opus 8.
Yeah. And this is your domain. I'm gonna let you talk about the ice. It's the one color I don't play.
I'm gonna go off on ice. As you may or may not know, I'm actually a mono ice player. I've been playing it since Opus 4.
Sicko. Since
it got good. I've always loved the color. And I just, I grind so much with it. So I've been I'm very interested in color theory and card games, so when it comes to ice, it's just really easy to go through it. But cards like, Genesis is a very strong card. Another card that we forgot to put in our notes is Kuja Opus 3, which allows you to, when he attacks, dull or free something, depending on what you pay. And... freezing is just an integral part of the deck. It's literally just locking the opponent out of play.
It's gross.
And that makes a lot of sense in ice. With ice, you're freezing things. You're freezing your opponent. You're making sure that they can't do anything. And we see that in another card mechanic that's very crucial and the big reason why ice does hit the competitive scene so hard, and that's discard. We forgot to put it specifically on here because it does kind of share it with wind, but ice is kind of what does it better. We immediately have lock, starter deck Sarah from the 13 starter deck, Flans, Edward, Gesper, who's now banned, Thaumaturge, who's now banned. Ice has a lot of discard, and it's just kind of in its color. It's going to be restrictive, it's going to be kind of mean, and it's going to just kind of make sure you don't have the resources to answer what ice is putting out on the board.
Yeah, it's similar enough to Mill. Only difference is you get to sit there and look and be like, fine, I'll pitch two, no CP.
Yeah, because it is ultimately stronger than Mill, because it is literally denying resources. That's why discard is always kind of pulled in a lot of card games. We both come from a history of Yu-Gi-Oh! As well, where a lot of discard cards are basically banned. That was the big thing why wind-ups got banned years ago in the game. And then kind of moving on to that restrictive gameplay, there's also taxation. Once again, this isn't something that's only in Ice, but we see it primarily in Ice. And we saw this, oddly enough, a lot in Opus 4 and Opus 3.
Yeah.
So the main examples that we wrote down are Remedy, Opus 4, Sidra and Del, Opus 4, Babis, Opus 4, Terra, who, if I remember correctly, is Opus...
It's Opus... oh my god.
It's either Opus 1 or it's Opus 3.
Yeah, it's one of the Terras.
In which if she's... her opponent's summons cost one more.
Yeah.
And then White Tiger Lassie, Kunmi. And obviously we also see this in Lednar in Fire, but he's literally the only example of this that we could really think of outside of this. Another card is Kuja, which whenever he's targeted, the opponent has to discard. This I fondly called the Reality Smasher effect. And there's just a lot of example of taxation. Once again, this is something that we only really got in about 2 sets, but this is something that's still very ice-themed, and it's probably going to be staying in ice for a long while.
Yeah, assuming nobody else gets it.
Yeah, and then to go into Ice's like kind of fringe mechanic, something that, as stated before, there's only a couple examples of this, but it's still a very ice idea, and that's Flicker and Blink. So the 2 primary cards are Time Age from Opus 3, I want to say.
Yeah, 3.
And Renoa from Opus... She was 6,
yeah. She was 6.
Yeah.
Because she came with Nidhogg.
Yeah, so both of these cards are very strong even today, especially when we are seeing a lot of Blink-worthy cards, like Orphan in Opus 5, and even the new Veritas of the Dark in Opus 8. I personally would love to see more of it.
Oh, yeah.
Being very biased on the subject, because I love Mono Ice so much. But it is a very strong mechanic. It's good that it's only down to 2 cards right now, because it's just this very historically strong ability.
Yeah, it wasn't appreciated for a little while, but once people caught on, boy, did they run with it. Yeah. It went.
Yeah, there's a reason why that Renault is still a sought-after card.
Yeah, it's still like, what, $16-17 on the second market?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah. But I think we've covered enough of your domain.
Yeah.
I think we can move on a little bit. Go.
Well, we have to still have to cover Light and Dark.
That's true. We have Light and Dark.
So this is the last like primary color, and this is a bit of a weird edge case.
Yeah, we don't really have a lot to say about it, only because there's nothing strictly unique to Light and Dark other than stupid good effects.
Yeah. And the big thing is Light and Dark only right now has a very limited pool, because in Opus 1 we got, I believe, 3 light cards and 3 dark cards.
Yeah, every set since then has only had 2 light, 2 dark.
Yeah, basically. So this is a very small pool for us. But the one consistent thing that we could see between both of the colors is just high cost. Light and Dark right now are the only colors in the game that has a 10-drop in the new arc from Opus 8. And then this also just has a lot of 8 and 9 drops.
8, 9, yeah, anything basically 7+ is what we consider high cost.
Yes.
So, you already said Arc. But we have Medine, Sin, Nidhogg, and Ultima. Yeah. All of which are unique forms of, nuking your opponent's board in some way or another. It's all gross.
Yeah, it is pretty gross.
It's effective. It does its job.
Yeah, maybe as the game develops more, maybe as we get some more sets, we're going to start seeing some themes. But right now, it looks like Light and Dark is kind of where they say, I'm going to put on this ridiculous effect, but because you can't discard the card, because it automatically comes with the restrictions of playing a Light and Dark card, it allows it to be balanced in its own right.
Actually, what we forgot to put in Earth was the ability to discard Light and Dark for CP with Tilica.
Yeah, but Tilica's the only example of that.
Well, yeah, but it's in Earth.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. But Tilica is literally the only exception to that rule.
Exactly. Yeah. So normally, they're restrictive in many ways.
Yeah. But now that we've colored the color spectrum,
we can go to the mixed colors.
Yes. So these are just kind of themes that are shared between 2 colors, kind of the little middle ground between some colors, the little Venn diagram middle. We talked about some of these before, but these are also still consistent themes in these colors. And once again, disclaimer, this isn't exclusive to just those 2 colors. Some of this is seen, but this is where we did see a lot of the overlap.
So we have Lightning and Fire first up, and we have things like Haste and First Strike. Yeah. Both very effective tools in the game. Very nice keywords to see on a card. Yeah. So we have, examples of that would be Tifa, more than one version of Lightning, a lot of the Dragoons, Vermilion Bird, Juyu, Lissi, Juyu, Belias the Summon, Illua, Ramza, and Freya.
Yeah. So all of these cards in one way or another have haste or first strike, even if they could give themselves it. Estinian's another good example of this.
Yeah.
And when we were going through all the cards and when we were going through the databases, it was interesting to see 2 keywords almost exclusive to 2 colors.
Yeah.
And once again, obviously, there's first strike cards in other colors and stuff like that. But the thing is, Fire and Lightning just had this overwhelming amount, and they were basically...
I don't think Water has anything with haste. I don't think Earth has anything with haste. You can give stuff haste or first strike or whatever with those, but more often than not, it's brave or whatever else.
I mean, even to bring up the example of my favorite color, ice, like, we have one card that has haste and it's conditional.
Yeah, right? You have cards that remove haste, but that's
it. Yeah.
That's just balancing the table there.
Yeah.
And then we also have burn / chip damage in both.
Yeah. So this is just kind of sharing the choose active forward that we saw early with lightning, and then just the chip damage of fire.
Yeah.
And we're going to be citing a lot of the same cards. Alcid from Opus 2, the 5-drop Lulu from Opus 1, and even the new... She was Opus 7. The Opus 7 Lulu also has a burn.
Yeah, that's right.
Zengetsu, Scholar from Opus 5, Cypher from Opus 6. And then in Fire, we see Vivi Opus 3 and Emperor's Hand. Just being able to do these kind of moderate amounts of damage to... Not just this overwhelming amount of damage, but being able to do that 5k, 6k range of damage.
Right. So yeah, we can move on then to Lightning and Water. Lightning and Water share one very strong element.
Very strong.
That a lot of people running, Knights decks kind of work into their decks very smoothly. That's power reduction.
Yeah.
Because, in Final Fantasy, as many people know, the power of the damage and health value are the same for a card. So reducing both of those simultaneously is extremely effective.
Yeah.
Examples of this would be Cyclops EX Black Mage from Opus 2, Rama from Opus 7, Leviathan Opus 8, Cagnazzo, Cloud of Darkness Opus 5, the Tonberries, Marlboro, and Beatrix.
Yeah.
So those are all they're the heavy hitters.
Yeah. Further on Lightning, we also see Cypher from Opus 6, who can reduce something by 2k when it blocks.
You're right.
And we're even seeing that now in Rain, even though he has a light card, of being able to reduce something by 4k.
But Rain is a knight, so it works.
There we go, yeah.
Stupid well with
the flavor,
those.
yeah.
So I'm building that one.
Yeah, and as we don't really need to tell you, power reduction is very strong in the game. Anything that just doesn't deal damage, anything that can work around Minwu, anything that can work around Arden is going to be powerful, and just being able to get that positive trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Lightning Ice have their own little grouping together.
Yeah.
They have dulling power.
Yeah. So you might have noticed that when we were talking about Mono Ice, or when I was talking about Mono Ice, I didn't mention dulling a lot. And there's a lot of dull cards in Ice, obviously, as it is just kind of the restriction oppressive color. We did see a lot of it in Lightning, too.
Yep.
And that was something that did kind of surprise me when we compared the raw numbers. Ice had more, but the thing is, it wasn't as uneven as I thought it would be.
Yeah, there's a lot more. There's obviously freezing in Ice, but Lightning has those quick dull effects.
Yeah.
Oppressive cards like Amon, Kate Sith, the new Emperor, Lightning Opus 1, the 4-drop, the Alcid Backup, which dulls 2 forwards opponent controls, and the Alphino forward.
Yeah.
So, and then Ice has the Shiva from Opus 3, Ghoul, the monster, the Snow backup, and the objectively better version of Swamp Monk, Militesi Curl.
Yeah, honestly. And once again, obviously this isn't exclusive. There's a lot of cards that do dull in Ice, but these are the ones that we do see kind of the most commonly, especially when it comes to the new Snow that everyone was freaking out about in Draft, and Shiva. And then we're also kind of seeing this in the starter deck Ultimisia, who allows you to just dull 2 forwards.
Yep.
And just tons of other cards. But once again, Lightning also just kind of has a slice of that pie, where they do have cards that can dull multiple cards in one turn, or being able to just constantly keep something down.
Yeah. And then, all right, moving on. So we got...
to move on to the other end of the color pie, we've got Earth and Fire. So the big thing that Earth and Fire do share... And I'm just now kind of noticing that Fire does share a lot of keywords, and Fire has a lot of keywords, is Brave.
Yep.
So with Brave, Earth has tons of cards that we can immediately think of off the top of our head, like the 5-drop Prish, the 5-drop being Arden, Guy, Galoof, Wall, Momody, Moogle Knight, and Manga Thief, as well as cards that we already cited Momody, who could give stuff Brave, and there's a lot of examples of Brave and Earth. And then the one that we didn't initially think of, Fire, has Aegis, Red Mage, who can grant Brave, Garland, Cloud, Aame, Scion, Guy, the 2-drop Backup Samurai, and Varuna. So all of these cards do have Brave or can grant Brave. I just noticed that Guy is actually between both of the colors, which is a little funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a very strong mechanic because it allows you to just kind of stay up. It allows just kind of being able to keep your defenses up while still being on the offense. Another card that comes to mind is Gabranth.
Yeah, Gabranth, yeah.
And once again, obviously we see these in other colors. There are actually Brave Ice cards, but it's only 2 or 3 as opposed to Fire.
Right.
We're just looking looking at a list of almost 10 cards, and same with Earth.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, moving on, the next thing they both share is damage dependency.
Yeah.
So its effects based on how much damage you have taken,
or when you take damage.
Or when you take damage, yeah, and they're all very effective. So basically all the Gabranths in some way or another.
Single one,
the Dark Knights that buff themselves based on how much damage you've taken.
Yes.
Zeramis the Condemner. And then these two are very similar, Cecil EX and Noctis EX. Both of them have very similar effects in terms of when you take damage.
I think you're referencing the
3-drop. 3-drop. Yeah.
3-drop
They both Noctis have So those are very effective EX cards. And the damage effect, it's gross.
Yeah.
It's really gross. Just kill stuff.
Yeah, even this is a little bit more recently that we've been seeing that in Fire as well.
Mm-hmm.
With Earth, once again, we're citing Cecil, who is Opus 1. Was he Opus 1 or is he Opus 3? I believe he's Opus 1. We're also citing like the Grants, which were Opus 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
But in Fire, a lot of it's kind of new for us. There's Ayame, who, if I remember correctly, was Opus 5. Lise, who's Opus 8, Jet, who's Opus 7, Opus 8 Cloud, Opus 8 Samurai, and then the only kind of like OG out of this one, which is Opus 2 Saz.
Yeah.
He was the only one that hasn't been in the last 3 sets.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Well, 13's gotten a lot of support,
yes.
So...
Yeah.
Actually, no, he has been. Saz has been he was in Opus 6.
Or I meant more so the damage.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you got me there.
Yeah.
But yeah, both of those colors have very strong, if you've taken X damage, do thing.
Yeah.
And it can change a game immediately as soon as you get your, you could be at 0 damage, your opponent hits 5, everything's bigger.
My deck's turned on. I played a Cecil and just insta-killed something.
It flips games. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it is interesting to kind of see it in Earth and Fire, especially when we don't see it in a color that you would normally associate with it, which would be like lightning.
Well, because both of those colors need something that give them a snap advantage.
Yeah.
Because in every other color, you can draw a couple cards and be like, here we go, and then we go. Yeah. Fire and Earth both are very relatively slow.
Yeah.
They're slow burns. No pun intended. Pardon the pun. But, they needed something like that. And here they have it. They have their turnaround.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Yeah. And then another color combination that has been seeing quite a bit of play is Ice Water. And the one main thing that we kind of saw between both Ice and Water, and this is, once again, something that's a bit more recent in one color and something that's been around for a while in the other color, is the amount of blank element characters you control.
Yeah.
So in Water, this is famously on Cloud of Darkness and Kignazo. This is also on Night.
Mostly based on the backups, of course.
And in Ice, we have... Cocytus.
We looked it up.
Who we just watched a YouTube video on how to pronounce that name. Cocytus.
Yep.
Or Fit and Laswell.
Right.
Once again, these are things that are only on a small amount of cards, but they do count the amount of element characters that you control. And we see that primarily just in those 2 colors right now.
Right.
It's very strong in both colors.
Yep.
Because it's very not hard to be able to hit that minimum.
Yeah. Anything else, it's all job-based. For standard units or scions or what have you.
Yeah. And then we also saw a cycle of it in Opus 8 with all of the summons.
A lot of the summons,
the 11 summons specifically with Ifrit, who targets or how many fire backups you have, etc.
Yep.
But once again, we're excluding cycles, so we just wanted to kind of point out those 2 colors of you need to have like X amount of characters, or if you have X amount of characters.
Yeah, it rewards you for having a large board.
Yeah.
Effectively.
Yeah, definitely.
So... those players that do take that time to do that. And then lastly, we have the combination of Fire and Wind, who share AoE damage.
Yeah.
Damage of the chip or burn variety that spreads across the board.
And just kind of hits everything.
Yeah, it's surprising that, even though Lightning and Fire share the burn aspect, the AoE is, they gave that unique bit of it to a different color than lightning, because lightning is already good enough.
Yeah.
So so here we have in the fire corner, we have Royal Ripeness, Bomb Opus 4 and 7, Ranger Opus 4, General Leo, which receives very little play,
yeah,
but it's an option.
He's only just now seeing play because a 6-deck did super well.
Right. Then we have Machina, the Type 0 character, who also sees very little play, but I appreciate the card quite a lot. It's also got a promo that we've got piles of at the local shops. Yeah, and then we have the VV from Opus 3, the Legend. And then Wind, we have Valifor EX, the 2 or 3 drop, the starter deck.
It's a 2-drop.
Yeah, from the starter deck of Opus or from Final Fantasy X. Cholinka, Alhanalem, Fina 6-drop, and the Dancer backups. And they all just smack everything on your opponent's side for an excessive amount of damage.
Yeah.
Save for Vivi, who just hits the whole board, I believe.
Yeah. Vivi is just a overall just nuke. But this was a kind of an interesting thing to kind of see between two colors.
Yeah.
Because even though Wind is just kind of known for chip damage, I didn't really realize how wide the chip damage was, that it just kind of hit everything. And especially because we have been seeing a lot of play of Cholinka and Alhanalem.
There you go.
More recently than not. It is still very powerful. And then Valifor has just been always kind of seeing play, especially in YRP decks.
Yep.
And just anything that can do that chip damage, do enough to just wipe the board.
Right.
Even though Valifor is mainly played for extra effect, being able to just re-up all the backups.
Yeah, that's right.
But that damage on top of Cholinka or Fina is always still going to be strong.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, not much to say about it, but... Yeah, this has been our little expose on color theory.
Yeah. There were some colors that didn't really have any overlap. As you might have noticed, we only mentioned Ice twice.
Yeah.
Because Ice doesn't really have anything in common with Earth. Earth doesn't really have anything in common with Water. Like, there's certain things that just didn't really have any overlap.
Yeah.
But this is just everything that we've kind of noticed so far. To kind of date this episode, Opus 8 is still relatively new to us. It's only been out for two or 3 weeks.
Yep.
So, sometimes by Opus 10, we're going to have a lot more kind of shared mechanics. Maybe by Opus 11, we're going to have some more.
We can revisit this.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to revisit it. But color theory as a whole is something that's a very interesting part of a lot of card games. As Eric mentioned before, it was a big part, or it's a part of Dragon Ball Z, or
Super, and then Weiss Schwarz as well.
Weiss Schwarz, Magic the Gathering. We even see it a little bit in Yu-Gi-Oh.
Very much less.
Yu-Gi doesn't really allow it.
Doesn't talk about it doesn't do it anymore.
And then we even see it in failed card games, which I think is something really funny. We saw it when we did a small opening for, I think it was Dot Hack Enemy had colors and stuff.
Yeah, you're right, it did,
And Duel Masters is another game that had a lot of really good color theory, despite the fact that the game in English only lasted so long.
Right.
And it's always going to be a primal aspect of card games. Any card game that does have colors, any card game that does function even closely to Magic will have that color theory. And it's always fun to kind of see the development of it and kind of see what people are going to introduce to that color theory, something that does fit in with it.
Because early on, it was very easy to see, but as we went further through the sets, the lines became a little blurred.
Yeah, it really did.
I like it and dislike it. Everyone has their opinions on it, but this is where it stands right now. Whether what you think or not, here's how the game functions, and here's how the bag. Here's how the salad mixes.
Yeah. And if you guys saw any themes that we might have missed, please feel free to comment them down in the comments. Just kind of tell us, like, hey, I noticed this in this color that you might not have noticed. We're more than happy to hear it. We're more than happy to just kind of edit these notes, kind of build upon this a little bit. And once again, maybe revisit this episode again. Yeah,
for sure. We can, if people want us to, we can make this document public, and when people can, comment, we can add their own little bits to it, copy it, whatever.
Yeah.
Help us along next time around. We can do less research.
Yeah.
Work together.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
It totally gives us just tons of free labor.
Unpaid. And if you want to pay us, if you want to give us some direct support, we do have a Ko-fi. Link will be down in the description.
Buy us some booster packs. We like to joke about that, but a lot of it is going to go straight to the show. It's going to go to getting some more materials, a better mic. tripod.
Yeah, hopefully a tripod. Yeah.
Tripod.
You guys would laugh if you saw our ghetto setup right now. It's great.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I fix it all in editing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thanks for watching.
Yeah,
We're glad you
very
visited. We'll see you guys around later.
Yeah, have a good one.